Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. I'm delighted to review this book, Justice Matters, Essays from the Pandemic, which has come to us from the Legal Action Group and Justice Alliance. Legal Action Group, of course, is the Access to Justice charity. The book has been written and edited by for Justice Alliance by Jessie Brennan, Mandy Groves, Rhona Friedman, Sue James and Simon Mullings. And I found this quite interesting as a book, bearing in mind we've all gone through this appalling menace of COVID-19. And I believe the title I've given this review, Some Comfort Reading During the Miserable Pandemic Menace. Now, I'm an activist lawyer, just as my colleague is the current activist Lord Chancellor, Robert Buckland. And I'm a Conservative and well known for it. And a lot of people who read this book will think, well, this is a pretty left-wing book. It isn't actually, because it's much more than that. It's about what is going on at the moment. And I thought that it would be a good opportunity for me to certainly comment on the book and look at it. It's only a small paperback. There's the front, there's nothing on the spine, and then on the back you can see a little quote actually from the Secret Barrister, SB. A superb collection of essays on our understanding of justice at a time of global uncertainty, at turns thought-provoking, challenging, infuriating, inspirational, and above all hopeful. And that's really why I think this is a book that's worth reading. It's 100-odd pages long, lots of interesting comments, a lot of people contributing in various ways. I'm not going to go through all the names. You can see from the little banner headlines where they're coming from. Obviously it looks very clearly at a whole series of emboldened statements from various commentators all the way through. For instance, there's one that's very interesting to me, practitioner Nick Bano. What should possession law look like? Well, I've got loads of areas where post-pandemic we are going to have really big problems. So whilst I'm delighted to welcome this book, do read the foreword. There's the, let me just show you the front page, there it is there. Do read the foreword, which is setting out September 2020, setting out what is happening. Then there's another preface. Brenda Hale is mentioned in quite a lot of detail, certainly because she puts forward a view about the Constitution, which again is probably the area which has got the most headlines. That's the content section. You can see each little essay has the named person. It covers a lot of areas. I can't go through each one, and I'm not going to single out individuals, but I'm just showing you the book. You see the very first one, Fiona Borden is looking, I'm 100% sure statistics alone won't win the battle over legal aid, battle for legal aid. Now, all those issues that are in here are what we, as lawyers, activist lawyers, is what we do. It doesn't matter what your politics are, your party politics. That's what we deal with. And that's why this book is so interesting, because if you step back from the pure dogma of politics and you think about the reality of what we're facing, you come up with some very interesting and thought-provoking views, because we are going to have to effectively rebuild a society in the 2020s once this pandemic is under some sort of control and we know where we're going. Because at the moment we're in a second wave and things are not good. I'm talking about this in the autumn of 2020. So why I'm saying there's some comfort reading here, it's because it's going to give us some ideas about the future. Because what we've got here is we've got Justice Alliance and LAG coming together with this intriguing collection of essays, which are called Justice Matters. It's got a subtitle, as I say, Essays from the Pandemic, and there are a lot of them, which offer a powerful story of the impact of COVID-19, the responses to it, and the hope for change. And that's really why I thought this is a book lawyers should read. You've got plenty of spare time, most of us have anyway, because things are not as busy as they were. So this book, not very expensive, it's well worth reading. It's an easy read for lawyers and for social historians, because it's offering to document in some small way the effects of the pandemic viewed through the lens of the justice system. And I thought, what a great idea, because the editors, Jessie Brennan, Mandy Groves, Rhona Friedman, Sue James and Simon Mullings, have handsomely brought together the various points in a lot of little essays with their task in hand, and they've been very successful. And as I say, we're living through an unprecedented public health crisis, and we do not know how it will end. As the pandemic gathers pace, and has gathered pace so far on one wave, and then there's another wave, we could have more, we started to see, we being the authors and the people involved in this book, much more clearly that those in food poverty, from BAME backgrounds, those in poor housing, insecure employment, the homeless, the elderly and the disabled, were the worst affected. The thing is, COVID-19 has no boundaries. It affects everyone, and everybody has been involved, and it is always the vulnerable who get hit the hardest. And that's really where the state must come in. And I think whatever one comments, whatever one's particular views, the state has tried its very best. And there has been a relatively, excuse me, perhaps I wouldn't say unique, but I think a very refreshing coming together so far, with a few hiccups, of agreement between the main parties. Obviously not everybody agrees on the future, but at the moment there has been a complete change in the effective Tory party philosophy about state intervention on a scale I didn't think I was ever going to see. And I'm a Conservative, so I can see that because of the national emergency, that has had to come in, and it shows that we can bend and be resilient. Now, going on with the book, there's no doubt that COVID has exposed the underlying structural health, race and class inequality in British society. Now, that is an inconvenient truth for many people, but we see that in the courts. And of course, it's at just the wrong time for everybody after a landslide defining general election at the end of 2019. And we at that time did not think, we didn't really think, we were thinking about Brexit, we weren't thinking about this particular problem at all. We knew it was just about to start, but we had no idea at the end, at the turn of the year, what was going to happen. So what the writers have done here is they've commented that we saw that a decade of austerity has eviscerated health and social care and public services and plunged the justice system into crisis. Very well, you can blame Cameron and Clegg and the alliance, you can blame a lot of things, but we are where we are now, and you've got Johnson to deal with it. Now, not all will agree with some or a lot of the content and the observations in this series of essays, but I do think they are thought-provoking because, frankly, no one knew what was going to happen, and no one knows what the eventual outcomes are going to be. So I think from a lawyer's perspective and a social historian's perspective, and I bring both of those in, being effectively both, I find it a fascinating statement of what we are actually physically going through at the moment. The writers also conclude that we have seen some hope and what can be achieved if there is the political will. I alluded to that earlier on. That is, of course, dealing with communities coming together, and we saw that. I saw that where I live, and everybody did, praising the NHS and trying to help. An awful lots of unsung heroes doing a tremendous amount quietly and getting on with it. The Brits are very good at that. Mind you, they're good at it in other countries. There are very decent people around, only a few who spoil it for everybody else. But that's what we have to deal with in the law. Because they say, for instance, in the book, that the homeless were housed, and those seeking asylum were released from immigration detention. There was a stay on possession cases and a moratorium on benefit sanctions. Ordinary people looked out for each other in ways that we would not previously have imagined. Absolutely. We've worked together and shown what is possible through campaigning, community activism and public pressure, as well as legal challenges, which of course we're going to be facing, frankly, in the future. And this, of course, has been the message of the pandemic for many and for the most. But of course, sadly, the emergency is not over. It continues to present an opportunity for social justice lawyers to catch the attention of the public, chance to tell the stories we witness every day, and to create solutions that help to build a more just and equal society. That is not what some people want to hear, but I'm glad that this book is bringing it out into the open, because that's what we do, irrespective of our personal points of view. And of course, this will make, I think, this short work highly valuable, the way in which they've gone about their task, when we reread this book, say in a year's time. Because as 2020 draws to a close, readers are presented with important perspectives from frontline workers in community groups. And obviously we've got the added contributions in this set of essays from legal observers at Black Lives Matter, that's the BLM protest group, lawyers working with the most vulnerable through the pandemic itself, academia, members of the judiciary and parliament, and of course Brenda Hale on the Constitution, which has taken the main attention of people because of it's excellent, and she's to be congratulated. It makes it, in my view, more than just a law book, because it's social history and commentary on what's happening at the moment and for the future. So let me conclude by saying this, that the individual contributors make it clear that these essays are not intended as an end in itself, but as the beginning and as a component of a larger discussion about the future, about equality and about justice. Because we may get something out of this which might mean a little less inequality. Now that may be a pipe dream, but it's worth thinking about, because these words eloquently express what we, many people as practitioners, feel on reading what is a thought-provoking pamphlet. Or it's a paperback, but it's actually the collection of essays. So I'd like to thank everybody. I can't go through them all by name, but I'd like to thank everybody who's produced their own contributions. The date of publication is cited as at the 23rd of September 2020, and I'm recording this a few weeks later. You see again, just opening it in the middle, this is about immigration. You can see the little statement there. Sadat Saeed, the immigration debate. That's caused a lot of emotion. Remote justice and transparency in the post-lockdown court of protection, written by Celia Kitzinga and Jill Looms-Quinn. Now, I can't go through every single essay, but you can see, even just picking those and a few others, safety for all women without exception. That's why this book is important, and it should not be considered by rather bigoted people as another left-wing socialist diatribe, because it is not. It's much bigger than that. It's about justice matters, but it's much, much more even than that. It's about the communities coming together and about us trying to work out what we're going to do, because I'm going to end on a really difficult note. We've got a second wave. We may get this pandemic sorted out, but it's highly likely in this century that we're going to have this sort of thing again. So let's get our tackle in order. And with that cheerful note, thank you to LAG and to the Justice Alliance for this excellent book. It's been well received, I think, by many people, and I'm very grateful to have it. I will reread it too. Bye-bye.